Welcome everybody to another episode of What Did We Just Watch? And today we're obviously talking about the season finale, the series finale of what I think is the greatest TV show they've put on TV in a long, long time. That is Breaking Bad. What the hell did we just watch? Oh my god.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. I'm anxious. Shaq and I have not talked. We literally just hopped in together, so I don't know his take on it. He doesn't know mine, so this will be quite a fun little experiment. So.
Oh yeah. Let's go ahead and start it off. The beginning with the money. Genius idea. I never saw it coming. Genius. Giving it to those people, I thought they were dead, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
I thought he literally hired Hitman, played that perfectly. We got to see some old characters come back, which I thought was awesome. We got Skinny and the other guy's name fades me. The one who just talks talks like he's high all the time.
Beaver or something, I don't know. Well.
Yeah. But that was awesome. It was great to see those guys back. So what do you think of the whole money situation? And that's probably the smartest thing he could have done.
Yeah, that was probably my favorite part of the episode, just because after last week's episode, the cliffhanger left you wondering what he was going to do to those people, because it was obvious that kind of set him in motion for one last hurrah when he was about to get arrested, and he changed his mind. So
right.
that was probably the thing I was most anticipating finding out. So I liked how it went out, and the fact that it's not all going to go to waste. His kids are going to still get the money, and as we saw the next part of the episode, he basically took care of his family, so that was pretty cool.
Right, yeah, I thought that part was amazing. So well thought out. I actually read an article about 2 or 3 days ago, and the person who writes it, the Gilligan, whoever writes these episodes, those people actually, from the beginning, weren't the Gray Matter people, his ex-girlfriend and was it Black? They actually weren't going to be part of the series finale. But like some kid unfortunately had cancer, and like Gilligan asked him, he was like, so what would you like to see? Like, what do you think the show's missing? Because he said like Breaking Bad was his favorite show. And he's like, I really want a backstory on Mr. Black and Walter's ex-girlfriend. So I thought it was really cool how he just threw that in there. And to me, that was the best part of the episode. Like, it was really cool how he could get the money. So at the end of the day, it wasn't all for nothing.
Right.
So it was definitely a really good moment, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think it would have been really missing something if they hadn't done that, because in the end of the day, that's really one of the big catalysts for all the things that he did. It wasn't just for his family, it wasn't just because of the cancer, but it was because he went and he saw the success that his former partners were having, and it just enraged him to realize that his life was so bad. He was about to die of cancer, and yet here these people had kind of taken advantage of him and had it so good. So if they had just left that out there, I think it would have been a major mistake.
The show does a great justice to every decision you make in life can be the difference of $1 billion, or, not to be broke, but to be almost poor and about to die. If he would have just stayed with that company, he would have had all the money he needed, and none
of this would ever happen, basically.
Yeah, exactly. He would have got his cancer cured, his family would have all the money he needed, and it would have been great. Yeah,
and obviously he kind of got screwed, but at the same time, part of it was his pride and his relationship with Gretchen back in the day, and he chose to go a different route, and we see that. Throughout the episodes, we see how he if he gets someone takes a stab at his ego or does something that he doesn't like, he doesn't handle it well, and he obviously probably didn't handle it well back in the day either, and that's kind of what gets him into the mess in the first place. So.
Right, he's definitely probably the most hard-headed character in any series for sure, which makes him Walter White at the end of the day. So we go from that part. The opening was amazing. The Hitman whole thing. We got to see Skinny and his friend. So awesome. And then he goes and he gets the breakfast. He does the whole 52 thing. We actually bring some stuff back to that was in the series beginning for season 5. We get to see all that really quick, fast forwarded.
Right.
The ricin. I did not see that one coming either. I never thought. but it was genius. I mean, it was the rice and the sugar. The second she got that sugar, because it was by itself, I was like, there's a reason why that's by itself. And, because you could tell whenever she got the little thing, it was like, it wasn't even supposed to be there. It was out of place.
Right. Usually she has to ask for it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yep.
That's the subtle thing. She always has to ask for it. And, yeah, so she used it. And, were you satisfied with where the ricin went? Because that was there all series long.
Right, yeah, I mean, that was something I was really curious about, too, and it did make sense, like you said. They had, again, it goes back to the fact that for many seasons, it feels like they've been setting you up for these things that happen, and that's a good feeling just because, they put that stevia stuff way back in whatever season she showed up, so it gives you that sense of, where they were going with it, and kind of now you see the whole picture. So.
Gilligan's been planting eggs all season. Every season, all season. It doesn't matter. He's been planting them, and it was amazing. So we have that, the ricin situation. Probably the most touching part of the episode, I'd have to say, when he goes home to Skylar.
Yeah, yeah.
And, her sister calls and's like, hey, Walt's in town, everything. And then the camera pans over, and Walt's standing there.
So perfect, yeah. I mean, the way they did that was that's one of those things about the show that doesn't probably get enough credit. The story gets a lot of credit, the acting, but some of the just little production things they do, and like that scene where they have the pillar there, and then it slowly moves, and you see that he was sitting there listening to that whole conversation. I mean, just little tricks and things that they do like that are just so spot on.
Oh yeah, it was awesome. I loved it. Also, I don't know if you caught this, but they were talking, when she was talking to her sister about the neighbors. You remember how I kept saying earlier, like, I thought the neighbor lived on the other side? I like how they kind of digged at that. Because they were like, it was, I forgot the names, but,
Carol and Becky.
Carol and Becky, that was probably it.
Yeah.
And she was like, well, Becky lives on the other side. Or Carol lives on the other side, I thought that was kind of cool. I don't know if they did I feel like a lot of people questioned it.
Right.
So if enough people questioned, they're like, we can fix this. And I like how they did that. I thought that was awesome. That was a pretty good, because I've been talking about that all the time. I've been telling you.
You brought that up. I think you might have brought it up in our last video, even. But
yeah, probably. But so that whole session, and then he got to see his daughter for one last time.
Yeah, that was big. And seeing Flynn one more time. Yeah.
Yeah,
that definitely hit home with me, like you said. I mean, I did not expect him to be in that room with Skylar to begin with, and I think after I saw that scene, I really felt like it needed that. They needed like some better closure.
A little closure, yeah, because and he finally admitted it. Like, she was like, you can't say you did this for the family, and he's like, I didn't. I did this for me because I felt alive for the first time.
Right.
And I thought that was huge.
Yep.
Like, he finally admitted, he was like, it began as something for the family.
Right.
But, once I made 40 mil, I was like, I can keep going. Why not? Obviously, 10 million would keep you satisfied for a lifetime. Especially the way they lived. So, I think she finally got her closure, and that was pretty awesome. Seeing the kids, and then the lottery ticket. That thing's been there since the end of season 4.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that was kind of cool to bring that back. It finally gives, Hank some closure.
Yep. And it gets her out of the DA's eyes as well, so which is huge. So.
Right, yeah, it gets her out of that. So he was making sure everybody was taken care of. This is actually the first episode where I felt like he did it literally for the family, for the first time. Well, I wouldn't say that. Maybe I'm going too far, but, like, the actions hit home for the first time, I guess you could say. Like, people actually started realizing, like, hey, he's doing this for me now. He knows he's in shit creek. He's not going anywhere. He's not gonna, at that point in time, he's not making it out of that episode.
Right.
So,
yep.
It was kind of cool. I was hoping maybe, like, when, like, Flynn was walking inside, like, he would turn around and see his dad one last time.
Yeah, yeah.
But we didn't get that. But, I mean, obviously I think Flynn would have raged on him, so.
Yeah, I think, exactly.
It was better not to, So we had that, and then, let's see. He goes and he starts, so whenever they were in the desert and they showed the scene with him putting the guns, like setting it up with the rotation thing, I was like, dude, this is going to be like a desert standoff.
Right.
That's what I thought he was going to have, like 4 of these things set up around the desert, and it was just going to be like, hey, let's meet here and let's go. Actually, in all honesty, when he gave her the ticket, I thought it was going to be one of these big showdowns where the DEA would show up in one corner, the whole Jack and his crew would show up in another, and Walter's just behind a rock pushing a button, you know. So that kind of threw me off. That was perfect for throwing people off the scent. So right after that happens, they go to the best part in the whole episode, which I think is amazing, and it takes Jesse back in time to when he was building a box. I was waiting. Remember I said something about this earlier.
You did, and I think it's on our last video as well.
I was talking about the box, like how he made it super perfect because he's talking to the therapist or whatever, and he's like, what did you do with the box? And he's like, I sold it for an ounce of weed. But at that point in time, that was the happiest he ever was in his life, was making that box, and it's showing him crafting this box. What did you feel about that? I mean,
well, it's exactly like what you said about Walt, and they dealt with his backstory and the fact that if you take a wrong turn at Albuquerque, you end up where Walt's at. And the same thing is true about Penguin, because he was making that box because the teacher challenged him to basically give a shit one time. And he actually did, and he had a chance right there to turn his life in a good direction, and he chose not to. And then you pop out of that scene, and here he is chained up down in a meth lab.
Right. Oh, so, it showed the perfect transition of him enjoying it, making a perfect box, and then bam. You see Jesse, full-on beard, scars all over his face, obviously a zombie at this point. He doesn't care if the sun comes up. Like, he's done. He's done with it. And I thought that was deep.
Yep. I didn't expect to get the box. And then the fact that you had brought it up recently, that was really interesting and really cool,
I definitely love it, because it was just one of those moments, even whenever the box came up in the beginning, whichever season it was, like, you just felt like Jesse actually, he had the ability to do something good, and it was just amazing. All right, so, and then after that happens, I think I actually got it wrong. I got it in the wrong order. The box actually happens before he goes to Skylar's house, but it's whatever. So after that whole scene with Skylar, it shows Walt driving up to this gate, and he's obviously ready for probably the beginning of the end, I guess you could say, for Walter. And he goes through the whole pat down. He's obviously going to go see Jack and his nephew and all that little crew. So he gets in and they check him and everything. They make him lift his shirt to see if he has any weapons. He obviously doesn't have anything on him except for his keys and his wallet. And the keys were obviously, who has bright orange key things? Like, first of all, like, I was
brand
like,
new key. Plus, I mean, really, that car wouldn't even have a key fob. I mean, it was hella old, like the guy said.
Yeah, exactly.
Which they should have caught on to, but they didn't.
Right. And actually, I didn't even catch on to that. I didn't even know if they said that. So that's something I didn't even catch. But it was obviously like bright orange. At least he could have done was get a Sharpie and color that fucking thing.
Right.
But he didn't. So he really wanted the keys. It was really obvious that those keys tied into everything. And the fact that he starts having this conversation like, hey, I got this way to make a new methylamine, or new way to make meth. You don't need methylamine anymore. And Jack says straight up, no, we're good. We're going to get barrels. And then the guy pulls out the gun and he brings up Jesse. He's like, he basically told Jack he was a coward for not killing Jesse and teaming up with him instead. And being, the gangster that Jack is, he was like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Yeah.
I don't team up with my enemies. I'm about to show you before I put a bullet in your head. And that's where he made the mistake.
Yep.
So what do you think of how that whole scene? Like, Walt on the spot is probably the best ever.
Of coming up with something to say to keep the situation going, like keep himself alive for one more second.
Right, yeah. How many times has he done that? He did it with Gus.
Yeah, exactly.
He almost did it with Tuco. He did do it with Tuco, with him and Jesse. It just shows you he had one less thing to get out of,
Yep.
So.
Yeah, this was definitely kind of similar to those other situations in terms of Walt in a pickle. There's only one way to stop it, and that's to kill the other guys. And he basically just takes it head on, and he comes up with a bizarre solution. And then when things get a little out of hand, he's able to land on his feet and improvise and make it work. So.
I also like to go. I'm going to go back a little bit if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I also like when he's talking to his wife, and she's like, "Tell me you did it for your. Right, don't tell me you did it for the family." And he's like, "I did it for myself." And he gives us a reason. He's like, "Because I was good at it."
Yeah,
And
it
that
made me
to
feel
me,
alive. I thought
yeah,
that was great. That was a great line because every guy who's ever been in his shoes of just like a dead end job or a sucky situation at home or whatever. I mean,
well,
has
just
had that
the cancer alone is a death sentence.
right, and you just had that feeling, kind of like, have you? Everyone wants to matter, or do something and be successful, and a
Right.
lot of people actually don't get that opportunity. The majority of people don't. So I mean, it's kind of interesting that he says that, and
I really love the part where he was like, I'm just, because I'm just good. At the end of the day, I was probably the best at it.
yep,
I took out, it just goes back. I mean, he took out Tuco, he took out, Gus. It just shows that he, at the end of the day, was the best. And as we all know, if you've seen the episode, how he falls, but, let's get back to that. So they're in the, Uncle Jack's all mad. He's like, hey, I'm not his partner. And he's like, bring in Jesse, because I want to show you the situation that we have Jesse in. And, one of his little clowns, his goons, goes and gets Jesse, brings him back, and Jesse, he sees him, but I think Aaron Paul did such a great job of just being blank.
mm-hmm.
He acted, I'm not saying he's the best actor. I think Bryan Cranston is probably twice as good, if not triple, Aaron Paul. If anybody saw the Need for Speed trailer during the show, let's just say Aaron Paul's career has just ended. No offense, but
Poor
Need
guy.
for Speed. Need for Speed, I mean, come on. Anyways, but I think he did a great job in this situation. Like, he literally looked like he was dead inside.
Yeah.
And it was perfect. I mean, he played it just perfectly. Actually, in all honesty, I think Aaron Paul did the best acting job in this episode. Just with the box, and then just a blank slate he had on his face. Like, he literally looked like he was just miserable. So he comes in, he looks at Walter, and he's just like, whatever. I'm so done. I don't even care. I wish he would just kill me. Like, that's all he wants. He just wants to be dead. And, so all that goes down, and this guy's like, Jack just makes him sit. Once again, Jack just stands there, and he's like, I should probably go ahead and kill you now, but he doesn't. And that's when Walt makes a really big decision, I think.
Yep.
And he runs towards Jesse and he tackles him to the ground. How did you feel about that? Like, you obviously didn't know what was going to happen next, but what did you think was going to happen? Like, stab him with the keys? I thought there was like a knife on the thing or something.
Yeah. No, I mean, I saw his face right before he did it, and I think in the same way he kind of showed remorse a little bit when he talked to his wife and said, I didn't do this for us, I did it for me. I think he, like you said, he saw Jesse and what he had done to him, and that it was a fate no one deserved. And we all know that for the longest time, Walt was trying to protect Jesse, and he didn't want bad things to happen to him, even though he was okay with it if it was collateral damage and it helped him, but at the end, he was trying to help Jesse. So I think he kind of snapped back to that. And we kind of saw that in his face a little bit.
Walt definitely took Jesse as like a father-son kind of situation.
Right.
Absolutely. Because his son was at the age where he was spending a lot of time with his friends. Like, he almost wasn't there all the time. And like, Walt was kind of there. Every time Walt went home, he felt like he was dead. Because everybody was like giving him this sympathy story of like, hey, you're about to die. You should take it easy. Mm-hmm. Like, why are you lying all the time? Why are you gone all the time? And Jesse would always be there, and he would just act like he was just one of the guys. He would just make it so much easier for Walt. And I think that's why Walt enjoyed it so much, because Jesse did. At the end of the day, Jesse didn't care. He never watched what he said. He didn't care. I mean, he was throwing bitch around like it was nothing. And he would talk to Walt, and he just like, you never go to a patient, like a cancer patient, and go, like, you're about to go, aren't you? Like, that's what he would do to Walt, as if it was nothing. So, I think, like, Jesse kind of just made Walt feel even more alive. He was just like, hey, you're just one of the guys, I don't really care. Let's just do this. And you gotta know Walt felt super shitty to put Jesse in that situation. Because without Walt, Jesse would probably be spending a couple years in jail, if that, and he could probably be living a pretty decent life. He may have gotten out of the drug game, because he wasn't doing anything hardcore at the beginning.
Yeah.
And he was just this kid who was jumping out of a window. And the transition from season 1 to season 5 is just crazy with Jesse. Because he's seen some shit. I mean,
yeah, he's been through more than anybody by far.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So he jumped on old Jesse, and they go to the ground. They start shuffling around, and that's when Walt pushes the was it the trunk key? I'm assuming
trunk latch or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So he pops the trunk, and off goes a machine gun. The LMG he's been having since the beginning of season 5. What did you think of that? When that thing went off?
And the LG does the rest. I have to say, you're going to hate me for this, but I have to say from that point on, the rest of the episode I was a little bit disappointed by, but not completely, but, that I thought was, it wasn't his best idea. It was good, but, there's a lot of opportunity for it not to work, you know what I mean? And obviously it worked, but, I thought there would be something else maybe that would happen that was other than just a turret comes on and happen.
Right.
Because, there could have been guys standing anywhere around that car, not in front of it, you know what I mean? Things like that were outside, so. But, the parts I liked, I liked the fact that he tackled Jesse and he felt bad. I like that Jesse got to, Todd didn't get wasted. Jesse got to have his revenge. I think that was fantastic. That was well.
That's what I was going to say. You said that you really didn't like this part of the episode. This is where my favorite part started. This is literally where I was just almost cheering for Jesse at this point.
Yeah.
And, when Jesse puts that chain around that guy's throat, I was just like, dude, I hope he doesn't get away from this. Because Jesse always gets himself in that situation where he's winning, but he'll end up getting his ass kicked.
Right.
Anyways, so I thought this guy had a gun or something that was going to kill Jesse. I was really glad he got to kill that guy. That to me, it obviously doesn't take away what he's done, but it kind of gives him a little bit of revenge, kind of a little satisfaction. And then he takes his shackles off and everything. What Walt did to Jack was amazing. That was huge in my book because he was like, hey dude, I got your money. I know where it's at. If you kill me, you're never going to get it. And the fact that Walt took, didn't even think about it, didn't hesitate, pop. It is no longer about the money.
Right.
And it was just great. It was a great part.
Yeah, I should probably be more specific. I didn't really like the LMG turret thing.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't like the very end, but I did like the fact that he got to choke Todd, and I loved the fact that he shot Jack in the face, and I liked the interaction between Jesse and Walt.
Chills from that second on.
That he dropped they dropped the gun.
Yeah, when Jesse picks up, Walt slides the gun over.
Right.
Jesse picks it up, and, he's like, do it. Just do it. And Jesse's just like, I'm not going to do anything until you tell me you want this. Because at the end of the day, Jesse is still taking Walt's orders. That's what I thought was kind of cool. Jesse just doesn't, I don't know, he just doesn't want to do it without Walt's permission, which is kind of weird.
I think he didn't want to have another killing on his conscience. He had part of his time dealing with that one. And he didn't want to have that. And then when he realized that Walt was hurt and he was actually going to be doing Walt a favor, then he went back to not wanting to do it at all. That's how I took it. Because he looks, right after, Walt says, yeah, I want you to do it, then he looks and he realizes he's going to die anyway.
Yeah.
Because you're not taking a bullet from that's like a 7.62. You're done.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Hey, you're around the kidney region, you're pretty much done.
Yeah. So the fact that he just dropped him was just like, you know what, I'm done. And when he walked out and said, if you want to do it yourself. Or done, do it yourself. He's not taking any orders. It was kind of like that similar situation to Saul, the episode before where he's just like, I'm done. I've taken my last instruction from you and I'm out.
Right. But then we get to the eye exchange of the century. Jesse goes to his car.
Yeah. And
looks back at Walt. And that's all you need. Every guy, especially with probably your father for the most part, if they're going on a long trip or anything, they just look back at you and you look back and you just know there's You know, it doesn't. At the end of the day, you know, it's all good. You know, we're, you know, Walter obviously did this guy horribly wrong, and he still kind of looked back at him, and wasn't like a smile or anything, but he just nodded and he was like, you know, it's been good. You know, it's kind of one of those.
Yeah, maybe like it's been real. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, not good.
It's definitely been real.
Yeah, it's been real for sure. And it was like Jesse kind of wasn't mad at Walt anymore. Like it was kind of like for a forgiveness nod, in my opinion. Like he was like, you know, the shit happens.
I think that at least from Walt's end of it, it's kind of like he knows that his family is taken care of, and now he gets to see that Jesse's leaving and he's going to be all right. And I think that probably makes him feel good. So I think that was some of it too, just kind of like a nod of get out of here, you know, go, you know, before the cops. He knows the cops are coming. Get out of here, you know.
Let me see you off one last time because I'm always here to bail you out no matter what.
Right.
So that was great. I thought that part was great. You're gonna hate me, but I love the ending. I loved it. The fact that he goes into when he goes into that meth room, and another thing that I always told you, when he picks up that mask, it brought me back. I remember I told you, I was like, that mask is going to come back. Well, it didn't come back the way I wanted it to, but it came back in a more emotional way, and I thought it was awesome, because he just picked it up and he just smiled. Because to me, that's where it started, when he had that mask. And when he picked it up, I mean, he could just see, you know, and then he starts touching the machines. That's where he wanted to be. He was happy to die there.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting because for just a split second, I thought he was going to like cook one last batch and it'd be like 100%. Me too. And I actually would have liked that, although, I mean, obviously there's no way he's going to finish that batch with that wound. But even if he would have just started, that would have been funny. But
that would have been a good ending. Actually, if he would have cooked one last batch, it would have been 100%, and then like he would have died with a smile on his face.
Right. Yeah.
That would have been kind of cool.
There's two things that happened after like I said, the LMG thing was just okay for me. And then the phone call with Lydia, I mean, I understand they had to put an end to her, and that was cool, but the fact that he told her she had ricin, that was a mistake, because if she knows what's wrong with her, she can go to the hospital and they can save her, so that was kind of stupid. Because we already saw that with the little boy. They eventually figured out what he had.
Well, the thing about the ricin thing was, like, if it's over like a day, I don't think there's anything they can do about it.
Yeah, that could be. I mean, yeah, maybe that's the case, but that was the thing that popped into my mind right away. It was like, don't tell her, you know, just say Todd's dead and everybody's dead and let her not know what's wrong with her. But, maybe that's just me, but, and then the ending, I mean, it wasn't a negative, it just wasn't a high for me. Like the fact that, I mean, I was cool with him walking through the meth thing. I was happy to see Jesse just hauling ass away, you know, and I think they kind of show that he's a little deranged at that point too, which, I mean, obviously he's going to be scarred when you've been in slavery for months and all this crazy stuff's happened to you, but
I think it's more of a freedom kind of thing. Like, I'm finally free from it all. I'm finally done. It's my life now. I can do whatever the hell I want to. Like, I'm done from the game that I just played.
Right.
It's like the end of a Jumanji game. You're just like, yes, finally.
Yeah. I don't really have any suggestions of what I would do differently. It's not that kind of a thing. It was just one of those things where, and it might have just been that maybe there was not a lot of things he could have done where I would have been happy with it. I think I would have been almost happier had Jesse actually capped him. Not maybe in that scene. Maybe he walked outside. For some reason they're outside. They go to a really wide shot. You can't really see what happens, and you see the trigger go and you see him drop. I would have been pretty happy with that. That's just me, but because I think he had enough motivation to do it. But I also understand the whole idea that Jesse never wanted to do that kind of thing, and he only did it when he had to because of Walt. So it makes sense that he was reluctant. But I don't know. It's one of those things. It's funny because the two endings that always come to mind for me now are always going to be The Sopranos and this, and it's going to be tied together for me because it shows me like why The Sopranos did what they did, because it's really hard to tie a bow on the main character and have everyone be happy with it. You know what I mean? And so I think they thought they could kind of skim her out of doing that, you know, like get away with not doing it.
Was it almost to the point where Walt had to die for you?
Oh yeah, I was fine with Walt dying. It wasn't that at all. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was just him laying there and them the music that was playing, I mean, I don't know, it just something didn't hit me right. Maybe tomorrow I might feel differently, but at the moment I was just, like, slightly disappointed. But I think one of the things is that the build up and the preceding episodes have been so good. It just had I probably had an unrealistic expectation in my mind. Like, I just thought I would just be in tears, or like just my mind blown at the end. And I really wasn't, but so it wasn't that I had a negative reaction by any means.
Right. It's just kind of like a.
Okay.
You kind of wish he would have went a little further. Like, his death would have did a little bit more. Obviously, his death was a lot of meaning, but I honestly thought he was going to survive. I thought the cops were going to take him in, and it would have been just he finally life in prison.
I thought that might be the way they were going until I saw how they were putting a bow on every other angle of the show. Yeah. It was like they wouldn't leave one loose end of, okay, what happens when he gets arrested? You know what I mean? Then because everything else is done.
Right. Yeah.
So I think once we got to the point where he left his family and stuff, I was like, okay, he's definitely going to die. That's kind of how I felt anyway.
Yeah, I agree. I thought he was going to die either way. I mean, obviously he has cancer. I mean, I don't think he was getting away from that anyways, to be completely honest.
Right.
I was kind of hoping we would see a little bit of Saul, like a little teaser of like how he's living. But we didn't get to see Saul at all.
Well, that's saved for. Although I guess it's gonna be a prequel, but we'll get more of Saul later. So
yeah, Better Call Saul. That prequel's coming hopefully 2014, probably 2015 though. Great episode. It was probably. I thought it was everything it should have been. Like, I thought everything was great. We had our, our suspicions that Walt was going to die, weeks ago. Because it's the only way to do it. Walt became such a villain that, he almost had to die to make any kind of justice.
Right.
Yeah.
And there was no one that really needed to come and get their pound of flesh from him, you know what I mean? Like, I guess Hank's wife, maybe. But everybody else had gotten to say what they wanted to say to him, or, Jesse, Skyler, Flynn, even Hank at the time whenever it happened, they all got to kind of say their final words to him, so there wasn't really a need to keep him around, for a, court or whatever.
I kind of would have liked, this is like the last thing, like after the credits rolled, I kind of would have liked to see Walt's gravestone in like a 40-year-old Flynn, just looking at his dad's gravestone, with his Corvette in the background, or something. I was hoping that Walt would have left him a letter or something.
Right.
That said, hey man, obviously I'm probably the shittiest father of all time. But you'll find out soon enough, like, why I did this. Like, you have to understand why I did this.
Right.
And I think that would have been kind of cool. I don't know, maybe not, but I thought that would have been kind of cool just to see him, like, at his gravesite or something, and just giving it, like, one last, like, tap or something, and that would have been the end.
Yeah, there's so many ways you can go with it. I think the only thing, like, where I was surprised it didn't do was at the very beginning of the episode that there wasn't a flash forward of some sort, because they could have done maybe not something that specific where at the very beginning of the episode he's dead, but I thought it would have been now knowing everything that happened, it would be really interesting if they'd done a flash forward at the beginning of, like, I don't know, a phone call to Skyler that they found him, or just something, to where you get to see a little further in the future past after Walt's dead. It's kind of weird that it's over just right as he dies, but that's just, everyone's going to have, there's a million different ways they could have done it. And we're all going to have different opinions on what could have been done. But overall, I like you said, I think the episode was pretty good. I really liked it. I think the last two episodes for me were better than this one. But, I think that's just one of those things of the build-up's always a little bit better than the payoff, so.
For sure. This was, just from my opinion input, this was probably my favorite one of the season. It was a really good summary of this whole 5 seasons. I thought the little like gifts they were giving for flashbacks were amazing. So great episode. Hopefully you guys enjoyed our little rant about it. It's probably like 30 minutes long. Sorry about that, but leave us a comment. Let us know how we did, and if you have any specific show you want us to watch, we're planning on doing this with Walking Dead, Game of Thrones. If there's any other episodes or any other shows you'd like us to do this with, just hit us up in the comment section, and shoot us a like, maybe a subscribe, and check out our podcast. And that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Later.